In this episode, Tessa and I will have a look at this Sigma Super Wide 2 24mm f2.8 lens and put it through its paces. We will also give it the CLV score in the end, so please keep watching for that. But first, let's start with its features and handling. The first version of this lens was introduced in 1981. It has a different optical construction with 7 elements and 7 groups. This is the newer version, which was introduced in 1988. It features 8 elements and 7 groups. The aperture closes down to f22 and has 6 blades. The aperture ring clicks at every half stop. Its minimum focusing distance is 18 centimeters, the filter diameter is 52 millimeters, and it weighs 240 grams. The focus ring feels smooth, with its 170 degrees focus throw, but the aperture ring locks into place quite firmly. But I guess that's better than being too loose. As you might expect from the short minimum focus distance, the lens also offers a slight macro function with a maximum magnification of 1:4. We will be testing the lens on a Sony A7III and this Fuji GFX50S. On the Fuji, it's equivalent to a full-frame lens with a focal length of 19mm and a maximum aperture of f2.2. Now the thing is, when evaluating the test results, I was surprised by the poor image quality towards the corners. At first I thought, okay, it's an old inexpensive lens, that's going to be the downside. But after reading other reviews online, it was clear that something was wrong. However, it didn't look like simple decentering, as every corner was equally bad, but the center was still very sharp, so I don't know what kind of fault that would be. But I bought a second lens, and lo and behold, the corners are better here. And so I did all the tests again. Unfortunately, most of the sample images had already been taken with the faulty one, which Tessa is holding there. So if you see noticeably blurry corners in those, it was probably that version. We start by looking at distortion and vignetting on this Adobe camera calibration chart. There's moustache distortion, which is not that easy to correct in software, but since it's not very strong, you might get away with it. Vignetting is quite visible and gradually disappears on stopping down. By f8 it's virtually gone. As mentioned, you can try to correct distortion and vignetting in your editing software, but you could also use the correction profiles I offer for download on my Patreon page. Lateral chromatic aberration is there, but on an average level, I would say. It can be easily corrected in software. Longitudinal chromatic aberration is thankfully not very pronounced, it's almost gone by f5.6. Mounted to a GFX camera, we can see black corners, which was to be expected with a wide-angle lens like this, but you can still make use of the X-pan or 1:1 aspect ratios. Next is sharpness at infinity on the A7III. Already at f2.8, we see very good sharpness in the middle. Stopping down doesn't do much regarding the sharpness, but contrast gets a little boost. From f16 onwards, the image becomes a little soft again. The situation halfway to the corner looks somewhat different. Here we only achieve very good sharpness at f8. And it is even worse on the corners of the image. We have to stop down to f11 to achieve very good sharpness. Here we see the sharpness at minimum focus distance. In the center the results are almost flawless, only f22 is slightly softer. However, when we look at the corners, I would like to draw your attention to the overview photo. With the aperture open, you can see the massive problem that this lens has: field curvature. And it is very pronounced. And on top of that, the image sharpness in the corners is very poor. Only at f22 do we see a somewhat good result. Now let's move on to sharpness at portrait distance. Here everything's back to normal. Wide open contrast is only slightly lower. When we look at the bokeh, the first thing we notice is that it doesn't look bad, perhaps a little edgy on the outlines. What is apparent, however, is that the field curvature causes the out of focus areas at the edges of the frame to become sharp again. This effect is even more pronounced here on the GFX, of course. Finally, we test coma and sunstars. Coma is quite well controlled. Sunstars begin to form from f5.6, but they look a little rough and frayed. To show you some real-life examples I shot with this lens, here are some photos I took with both the Fuji and the Sony. Please enjoy. We've now arrived at the CLV score. It gets a 9 for handling and features thanks to its close focusing capability. For aberrations due to the high field curvature, only a 4. A 6 for its sharpness and the mixed results there, although the center sharpness is very good. A 5 for the bokeh, as well as the sunstars. If you're lucky, you can get this lens for 50 euros or even below, so value is still very good. 37 out of 60 points, well, could be worse, I guess. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing.